What's up guys, I'm Dean and welcome back to my channel. Today I thought I'd try something different which I haven't really done on YouTube but I've done a lot of on TikTok, and that's a ranking video. Specifically, I'm going to rank every single episode of What If. I was planning on just doing a normal review, but I thought this would be a better way to talk about all of my thoughts about What If, because I have a lot. I will do an overall review at the end, but for now let's just rank all 9 episodes. Let's jump into it. In 9th place we have the Party Thor episode. This was definitely my least favourite, and if I was to sum that up, it would just be because I didn't find it funny. An episode that's entirely built around the humour, it just didn't work for me because I just didn't find this kind of comedy funny. This is actually the only episode that I actively disliked. But other than that, it made a complete mockery of Maria Hill's character, Jane Foster's character, and the Nexus event was so weirdly defined that the world didn't really feel that accurate to me. It just felt like a barrage of dumb jokes and references and appearances that just felt heartless and just dead to me. I just really didn't like it. The Captain Marvel appearance was good. I did like their fight, but there was a lot of plot holes for this episode. Maybe not plot holes, but inconsistencies in this episode too, which I wasn't a fan of. And just overall, it just didn't work for me. This wasn't my sort of episode. In 8th place is episode 1, the Captain Carter episode. When I first saw this episode, I was really worried about the future of What If, and I'm glad that not every episode was like this, because this was just Captain America the First Avenger, but with a different character in charge. They just did the same movie again, just with Captain Carter instead of Captain America, and that just really didn't work to me. And because they were trying to fit an entire movie's plot into half an hour, it felt so rushed and weirdly paced. The pacing didn't work at all, and because the pacing was off, the joking didn't work. There was some really cool action, and I do like Haley Atwell's performance as Captain Carter. Just apart from that, the rest of it just didn't work for me. And there were moments where I thought they were going to do risks, like when Captain America fell off, the Hydra Stomper fell off the train. I thought, oh no, Steve's about to become the Winter Soldier, and I was like, that's going to be a cool twist, but they didn't do that. I mean, maybe they're doing that now, but they didn't do that in the episode, and it just continued in its boring thing. Red Skull was alright, but it was just, oh, let me just push this big squid through a portal and then we're going to be fine, as the finale, and for me, that just didn't work. 7th place is the What If Killmonger rescue Tony Stark episode. This one felt just cut short to me. Like, it just didn't really work as just a singular narrative, because it ended so abruptly, and it the entire time, because we didn't know what Killmonger's plan was, it felt like the episode was building towards a big reveal and a big villainous moment for Killmonger, and it just never came. This felt like part 1 of a 2-parter, because a lot of these cliffhangers I'm not a fan of. I'm not a fan of how most of these episodes end on cliffhangers. Some of them work. This might just be the worst, because where the cliffhanger ends with Pepper Potts and Shuri teaming up, that is way more interesting than anything that happened in the entire episode up to that point. I do like parts of it. I like seeing T'Challa's mum, can't remember her name, fighting. I think that's cool. I like the stuff with Claw, because Andy Serkis is always great, and the highlight for me has to be what Tony Stark would have been like if he didn't go through the cave and he didn't have to build himself an Iron Man suit. I really like that element of it, but just Killmonger's plan was so weirdly defined and it was cut short. Another moment I did like actually was T'Challa meeting Eric Killmonger in the afterlife. I thought that was a good moment, but it still just felt like halfway through the story that they stopped it. It wasn't a cliffhanger as much as it just was a part 1, and judging from the last episode, we're definitely not going to get a part 2, so I'm not a fan of that. In 6th place, we've got the finale, What If the Watcher Broke His Oath. This episode has some really, really cool moments. There were some amazing visuals. They do some great particle effects in this show, and there's some great animation. And the action did look really good. Just my one complaint about the episode was it was just too much action and not enough stuff of the character. Like, I don't think that we saw enough of the team bonding and them all bouncing off each other, and maybe more of the continuation of the worlds they came from and stuff like that. I feel like it just went to the action too quickly. What I did like though is they did incorporate every world we'd seen. I liked the appearance of the zombies. I really liked Black Widow's finale. I liked how the Watcher dropped her off in the world from episode 3. I think that worked really well, and I liked Captain Carter's appearance, and I liked her relationship with Black Widow as well. I think that worked super well, and Eric Killmonger's turn to villainy worked here as well. I liked his reasoning. I think it made sense of him going, yeah, why can't we just go take these Infinity Stones and fix our worlds? Why wouldn't we do that? I think that worked well as an argument, although it could have done with some more developing. But overall, it worked. I liked Arnim Zola, and I'm going to give you my thoughts on Ultron later on. Overall, love this episode. Two more highlights actually. Doctor Strange was great in this episode. He did just carry that team. The end credit scene was a bit meh, but another thing I did love was the Watcher recruiting the team and bringing everyone in. In fifth place, we have What If T'Challa Became Star-Lord. Once upon a time, this would have been my favourite episode, and when I watched it, I really, really loved it, but on a rewatch, it has gone down a little bit. But I still really like this episode. Chadwick Boseman does an amazing performance. I really love seeing how different the universe is just with this one small change. I think that's really interesting. Some elements of that didn't work. I really like Josh Brolin. I really like Thanos. The bit when he goes not crazy mad, I think that worked excellently. I did love the changes like that, and I really loved Nebula in this episode as well. The scene on the Wakandan ship was great. I really loved the Collector in this, and I loved his collection. I think that worked well, and it was an interesting dynamic to throw in. And the cliffhanger didn't feel too much like a dodgy cliffhanger to me. It just felt like another story, because the story this episode was trying to tell did end. If I had to make one complaint about this episode, I would say the pacing was still a bit too fast for me. There were just characters would change their minds seconds through instead of, building up to something like that. And I did find it funny as well. Overall, great episode. Okay, now we're getting into the controversial territory. In fourth place, I put What If Doctor Strange Lost His Heart instead of his hands? Because on the surface, this episode is amazing. On the surface, I think this could have been the best episode, but the more I think about it and when I rewatched it, it did definitely go down in my ranking quite a bit. And my main complaint has to be the end fight, has to be the Doctor Strange versus Doctor Strange, because surely that has to be the most boring of all the solutions they could come up with. Number one, it complicated the plot so much by having the Ancient One bring in another Doctor Strange and splitting the timeline in the same universe. That confuses things for a start. But it would have been more interesting to see Doctor Strange fight literally anyone. It could have been the Ancient One, it could have been Caecilius, it could have been Wong. Wong would have been amazing. Could have been Agatha Harkness, that would have been interesting. Or even just, perhaps my favourite option, all of the Avengers. All of the Avengers find out what Doctor Strange is about to do, and they go in to fight him, and this super powerful Doctor Strange has to fight and kill all the Avengers. I think that would have been more interesting than just Doctor Strange versus Doctor Strange. That action scene wasn't even that dynamic. It was one of the weaker ones in the show for me, and just this one part of this episode brings it all down for me, because other than that, it's got some phenomenal voice acting. The Nexus event is a bit weirdly defined, but I think it works really well. I just think that's the one issue I have with this episode. The bit where he sees the Watcher and he asks the Watcher for help is a phenomenal moment. I really loved. It's kind of fourth wall breaking in a way, and I really love that element to it. I think that worked really well. And the cliffhanger was good as well. Just the Doctor Strange versus Doctor Strange was bland and boring, and just I wasn't a big fan of that. Apart from that, though, it was still a really good episode, hence why it's ranked here. But that would be my one complaint. That's been falling down. Have you been falling down this entire time? I just realised this camera's been falling. Okay, where were we? In third place, we have the zombie episode. This might be a little controversial, I'm not sure. I know a lot of people don't like this episode, but for me, it did really work, and that's simply because I didn't mind the comedy too much. I didn't think it messed up with the pacing, and I think it kind of fit the theme and the tone they were going for, because they weren't going to do straight horror. If you were going in with that expectation, I understand that you would have been disappointed, and I think they did the horror elements quite well. I thought it was quite scary, some bits were quite gruesome. Just the bit with the humour that didn't work for me was just how nonchalant they were about when they killed them friends. Like when Bucky killed Captain America, he just did not care when they were on their way to get a cure. Things like that annoyed me. But other than that, I think the humour worked and the horror worked. It had an amazing opening, everything to do with Spider-Man. This I loved. I really loved his little speech, and he mentioned Uncle Ben finally. I think that really worked. And there was some really great zombie action. That was really what carried this for me. I'm still a bit torn on the Vision being the villain thing. I'm not sure where I stand on that, but I also think this episode had a great cliffhanger and some really, really awesome moments. So it's in third place. Okay, so before I go into what's in second place, I will just do my general what if review. I think this show was good, but there were a few too many episodes that didn't work for me, and not enough episodes which really wowed me. I don't think this show reached its full potential. The animation though was great for the pretty much all of it. I really love some of the action in it, and all the voice actors were amazing. Special shout out to all those ones who were being like Tony Stark or Captain America or Spider-Man or Captain Marvel. They did a great job, and Black Widow impersonating the people who couldn't be in it, and that's what I really appreciated about this. I think it was a lot of fun at times, and I really loved the overall theme this had of hope. I think that carried through each episode very well, and I am interested to see series 2. Okay, in second place, perhaps a little controversially, is What If the World Lost Its Mightiest Heroes? After my first watch of this, I didn't really rate it, but when I rewatched it recently to make this video, I think I noticed a lot which I really loved about this, because at its core it's just a murder mystery, and I think as a murder mystery it works excellently. I really loved all the clues, and I really loved Hank Pym's turn to villainy. I think that worked great. Perhaps it was doing too many things when they added in Loki about to invade the Earth, although that does put pressure onto Nick Fury to find the solution. I loved all the Avengers deaths. I think they worked excellently, and they were a bit like shocking. A lot of the humour in this episode didn't work for me, like when they were talking about Thor right next to the body. That would be one complaint I had, but apart from that, I really loved the Loki Nick Fury team up. I'm not a big fan of the cliffhanger at the end, but I loved everything Black Widow did in this movie. I think that worked excellently, and overall, yeah, this was a really solid episode. And in first place, the observant of you would have already figured this out. What if Ultron won? Ultron is an amazing villain in the comics, and I do really enjoy him in the MCU, but I think he deserved more, both in quality and quantity, and I think this episode did a phenomenal job at redeeming him. It had so many great moments. The best moment of all of What If for me is when Ultron noticed the Watcher talking. I think that worked so well, and their fight was absolutely epic, and it looked awesome, and it was brilliantly animated. I also really love the montage of Ultron just killing the known universe, travelling around to Xandar, Ego, the Sovereign, fighting Captain Marvel. All those elements worked really, really well. But one thing which I really loved about this episode was Hawkeye. I really think this is the best Hawkeye appearance in any of the MCU ever, because he had more of a personality than he does a lot of the time, and also I really loved the action stuff with him, and there was some awesome bow and arrow stuff in here, and I loved that. I also loved the appearance of Arnim Zola. That was a clever link back. Just so much of this worked, mostly the action. Ultron was a really cool villain. I didn't hate the Thanos bit like a lot of people did. And yeah, this episode just worked excellently for me. I love the ending when Uatu goes to speak to Doctor Strange. Just all round amazing. This one definitely deserves first place in my opinion. So I'd like to thank you all for watching. Please remember to like, comment, subscribe, the usual. I still feel weird saying that stuff, but yeah, stick around because I am trying to post weekly nowadays. All my links are down below if you want to check anything out, and thank you. I'll see you next time. Bye.